Welcome to Tiger Talk here at AI Sports Network. We will briefly recap the Ole Miss game, which I would have to say is not exactly how most people thought it would go. 30 seconds or less, give me your overall thoughts on today's game.
LSU offense, very explosive, like always, like they've been all season. Defense is very, I have to be honest, defense was very abysmal. Looking at the score, for those that are celebrating the 58 points, y'all worried about the wrong number. If you definitely know the reputation of the Tigers, they gave up 37 whopping points to a struggling Ole Miss team. So definitely got to clean that up.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that legendary offense, which is at so many school records. Let's go. So Joe Burrow had another magnificent game. He has set so many records this year. As usual, let's break down his numbers for the game. 489 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 6 carries for 26 yards, a QB rating of 94.7. 2 interceptions for the game, which gives him a total of 6 on the year, and he's still completing roughly 80%, or just 80% of his completions. Talk Joe Burrow.
So Joe Burrow, it's obvious he's a front runner for not only the Heisman, and everybody's saying the Heisman race is his to lose. There's guys that's chasing him like Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, etc. But they're not putting up nearly the numbers, and they're not as nearly as dominant as Joe Burrow. And not only that, he's a front runner for the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And Joe Burrow has been heaven sent. As far as for this Tigers offense, which has been known to struggle all these years, which is known to be run heavy, and for LSU's offense to be playing the way they are under, with Joe Burrow at quarterback, no one would have thought.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, how in the hell are they doing this?
Yeah, Burrow's been just beyond my expectations, and he has set many school records and still has a few left in sight that he could pass up in the last 2-3 games of the regular season, assuming that they make the SEC title game. And so, just want to take a little look at his pace. He's still on pace to become LSU's only 4,000-yard passer. He's on pace to become LSU's only 50 touchdown. It says he's on pace for 48, but I would not be surprised if he passes for over 50. So just to go off and rattle off a few of his school records that I have been able to compile so far, let's take a look at a few. 6 touchdown passes in the game, 38 touchdown passes in the season, 3,687 yards in the season, 17 consecutive completions. I also have he's on pace to finish at 79% completions. He set the record for most total yards by a single player, total offense, 3,902, and he has 41 total touchdowns so far.
Like I said, Joe Burrow is a man that is heaven sent to an LSU defense that has struggled over the years. Also want to add, as bad as Arkansas's defense is, Joe Burrow might just break the rest of those records this Saturday. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, and just real quick, he still has Rohan Davis' single game passing record of 528 yards that he has yet to eclipse. Came close against Ole Miss. Had that game been a little bit more competitive from the start, I think that would be a possibility that he would have broken the record. Also, he is currently sitting at 64 total career touchdowns. Tommy Hudson had 71 in his career. The only record I don't see him reaching other than career passing yards would be career touchdowns, which Hudson had 69. He currently sits at 54. Okay, that's our time for Joe Burrow. I want to talk a little bit Clyde Edwards-Helaire. His performance in the game was 23 carries, 172 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 receptions, 22 yards. Not quite on scale of his legendary performance against Alabama, but he's still on a very good pace. He also has 32 receptions for 224 yards and a touchdown, and currently has 958 yards after 100 and 58 carries.
All right, so with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I mean, he started the season off pretty slow, and that LSU offense was focusing more on passing the ball, like being pass heavy early on. But I think what really opened the door for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be as dominant as he has been was the Utah State game. As we all know, the Utah State game, LSU used that game to be able to learn how to slow the game down, to learn how to incorporate the run more into their offense. And I feel that opened the door more for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be as dominant as he's been. Ever since the Utah State game, he has been a much more vital part of that LSU offense. We've seen him run the ball a lot more crazy. We've seen him run the ball a lot harder. And these past few games has really risen Clyde Edwards-Helaire draft stock as well. So don't be surprised if we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire go anywhere late in the first day or maybe early in the second day.
Yeah, Helaire can, this upcoming game against Arkansas, can eclipse the 1,000 yard mark, which would make him, I want to say, the 9th or 10th person to do that in LSU history. Obviously, he will be joining several greats like Charles Alexander, Dalton Hilliard, and Leonard Fournette, plus Darius Geis. So, all right, so this has been a record-setting passing game without question. Joe Burrow has had an amazing season, but he has not been the only part of the equation. And the other two would be Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. With the Ole Miss game, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase both went over 1,000 yards on the season. This marks the second time in LSU history that a pair of receivers have done that in the same year. That other time was 2013 when Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham both went over 1,000 yards. But Chase is currently sitting at 57 receptions for 1,116 yards and 13 touchdowns, which that puts him 6th on the list, single season all time. And Jefferson currently has 71 receptions for 1,010 yards and 11 touchdowns, which puts him 9th. So you got two guys in the top 10 as far as best receiving seasons go for LSU.
All right, in my opinion, Jamar Chase kind of came a little bit out of nowhere to me. Justin Jefferson was a guy that I saw most of last year, and I saw a lot of his potential last season at receiver. And this is when LSU's offense wasn't as prolific. But Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, they have been the highlights of, I mean, other than Joe Burrow, they've been the highlights of this LSU offense, and they're pretty much the highlights of the SEC. You know, and they've made an argument to be the best receiving core in the entire nation. They seem to be a receiving core that no one can stop, that no one can cover. So I'm very excited for the future, not only of this offense, but definitely for this receiving core. And you also got to take in consideration guys like Racey McMath, guys like Thaddeus Moss, and Terrace Marshall as well. I mean, they've also played a part in this LSU offense.
Yeah. Out of the current core receivers, the only one possibly not coming back next year would be Jefferson, because he's a junior and officially draft eligible. He had a really good season last year. He's having a magnificent season this year. I do not see him returning other than just for whatever unknown reason. The only reason I don't think that Terrace Marshall was part of this list right now is because he was out of a few games with an injury. So, there was that. Oh, and before we move on, just a little side note. Jamar Chase has the single season record for receiving touchdowns at 13, which currently places him one more than Dwayne Bowe had in 2006.
And Dwayne Bowe was quite the animal at receiver for LSU.
Mm-hmm. Completed just 9 catches out of 16 attempts for 212 yards, but they compiled 402 yards rushing off of 44 carries.
LSU defense, come here. We need to have a talk, guys. We need to have a long talk. This is not the LSU defense that we're all accustomed to seeing. The defense that we're all accustomed to seeing is a suffocating defense, a defense to where you cannot run the ball on, to where you'd be lucky if you get the ball off. You'd be lucky if you make it across the line of scrimmage. You'd be lucky if you make it across midfield. I mean, that's the type of defense that we're used to seeing. But Saturday was just a huge step down for our defense. I mean, they gave up over 200 yards alone to the quarterback, to John Reese Plumlee. I mean, and he has a bright future. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, come into this game, and Ed Orgeron even told the media, Ole Miss, their offense is not prolific as they were last season with the Jordan Ta'amu at quarterback, but they do have one hell of a rushing attack. That's one thing that this LSU defense knew. You knew what you were coming into, and you still gave up over 400 yards rushing. Like, I mean, of course, you got to put it on the players because they failed to execute. They were all out of place. But you also got to, the coaching staff as well, as far as game planning and making sure the guys are ready.
Yeah. Also, Jerron Ely had 141 yards rushing to go with Plumlee's 212.
Definitely not the defense we're used to seeing. And yes, we're going to get, here's the thing. If this LSU defense has such a hard time stopping the rushing attack for Ole Miss, they're going to have hell to pay with Georgia.
Yeah.
It's the battle for the Golden Boot.
Yeah. Historically speaking, Arkansas has brought it to their game against LSU, like a lot of their competition in the SEC West division. There's just something about playing LSU that brings something out of teams that they don't typically have the rest of the season. That being said, Arkansas is the worst team in the SEC this year.
They have not won an SEC game in 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
And also, look, and like you said, you're right. This is something that we shouldn't be surprised about. No matter how bad Arkansas does during the season, they always play LSU tough. I just don't see Arkansas playing LSU tough this year. Why? Because Arkansas has an abysmal defense. Arkansas hasn't won an SEC game in 2 years. They lost to Western Kentucky 45-19 at home. They fired their head coach. And can I please say that the spread that ESPN, that Vegas came up with, LSU is favored by 44 points. This is the official spread for the game. You can go to ESPN.com. I'm not lying about this.
Well, LSU was also favored to beat Ole Miss by 21 points.
And they completed the spread, but
they gave up 37 points. So.
I don't see them giving up 37 points to Arkansas. If they give up 37 to Arkansas, we got a problem.
Yeah, totally. All right, thanks for watching. We enjoyed recording this show, and we hope you join us next week when we cover the Saints and LSU versus their respective teams. You can follow us on Facebook or check out our website at aisportsnetwork.com. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.